the football Postcast in association with Paddy Power. Their new iPhone app is quicker than Big Sam at a carvery, so download it now.
Hello there, I'm Dave Clark. Welcome along to the Racing Post Weekend Football Postcast. In the presence of football betting greatness, Mark Langdon and Dan Childs, along with Sean O'Sullivan from Paddy Power on the line. Gents will go straight into the action. We've got a few games tonight, Dan. Yeah. Belter, Italy v Spain.
Yeah. Obviously, Italy did a real job on them, didn't they? At the Euros, Antonio Conte got his tactics just right there. Italy got this fantastic record in World Cup qualifiers, 51 games, I think, unbeaten in qualifiers, Euros and World Cup. Sorry.
Incredible, yeah.
But I actually think it could go here. I think Spain have responded quite well, actually, to what happened to them at the Euros. Won 2-0 against Belgium in a friendly, 8-0 against Liechtenstein. Got Diego Costa back in the side, scoring goals as well. Other players like David Silva playing well, having a good start to the season with Manchester City. I just think they've got a little bit too much for Italy here. Italy very, very limited up front, relying on Graziano Pella in the main for the goals, and I think Spain, I think they're about 13-8 are a good bet here.
Well, we'll get a quick show from Sean. Sean, welcome back to the Football Postcast. Give us a quick show, please.
Spain are actually shortening here, lads. They're into 13-8 since this morning. We opened up 7-4 actually at around, I think I was into work about 8, but there's money all day, so they're into 13-8. The draw is popular too, 15-8. That's mostly down to the fact the under 2.5 line's very short. It's 2-5 on. And then we've Italy, they're actually outsiders at home at 2-1.
Mark, for you, any value there?
I think if I was having a bet, which I won't be on the game, it'd probably be the draw. I think it's a game where neither team will risk losing the game to try to win it. Because there's only one team guaranteed to go through. But I think that Italy, as Dan mentioned, haven't quite got the quality in the forward areas maybe to really hurt Spain, and I'm just not sold on Spain. I thought they were beaten fair and square by Italy in the Euros. They have got the better quality, but I think this downward spiral has gone on for a while with them now. And in terms of Costa, he is doing well for Chelsea, but Spain have never been able to play to his strengths, at least so far. And I think that's probably the biggest concern and the biggest job that Lopetegui, the new manager's got. How does he integrate Costa into this team? So I'd like to see more than the game against Liechtenstein before I back them to win away to Italy. I think it's going to be low scoring. That brings a draw into play. It's the one for me.
Okay, and Sean, give us a quick show on the Republic of Ireland versus Georgia. What looks possibly a must-win game for Ireland?
Yeah, Ireland are actually into 2-5. Again, big gamble this morning. We opened up, I think, 8-13, maybe 3-4 weeks ago, up with that game. So there's been a lot of money for them. The draw is 16-5, and Georgia are rank outsiders at 9-1.
Dan, as poor as Georgia are, how can we sort of get Ireland on side without getting stuck into the short prices 2-5?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Georgia, they're not obviously not a great side, but I do think they're actually they're on the up a little bit now. They had a real shock win over Spain in a friendly just before the Euros. Beat Spain 1-0 in Spain. So that was the sign that things are starting to improve. Vladimir Weiss has taken over as their manager. Did quite well in the past as Slovakia manager with players that weren't the superstar players, and Georgia have got some good technical players, and they're starting to improve a bit. I think they lost 2-1 against Germany as well at the end of the last qualifying campaign. Only lost by the odd goal in both matches to Ireland as well. They're in the same qualifying group. I think it was 1-0 in Dublin and 2-1 in Georgia. So
sounds like you're against the gamble.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be smashing into Ireland at really short prices. And angle I've looked at there is both teams to score at 7-4. I looked at Georgia's recent form. They are scoring goals. They've scored in 8 of their last 9 matches. So including. They scored in the game against Germany, scored against Spain. So they've scored against some good sides. So I thought both teams to score 7-4 looked a little bit overpriced.
Mark, you sweet on Georgia's chances?
I think that Georgia can definitely give Ireland a game. Sean will know more about Ireland. Maybe he can sort of give us the lowdown there in a minute. But I thought maybe Ireland to win by 1 goal maybe a better way of going into this one. Dan's mentioned the fact that they've met each other recently and they were two reasonably tight matches. And I always feel with Martin O'Neill, and I think it's been an accusation against him, and maybe people are having a pop at him in Ireland for it, is that when they hit the front, they can be quite defensive and sit back. We saw that it happened in Serbia, it happened against Sweden in the Euros as well. I mean, I think they were pushed back against France in the Euros. I don't think they could have done anything about that. But I don't think there's any sort of great incentive for him to sort of push on once the job's done. So maybe Ireland to win by 1 goal. I agree with Dan that Georgia are improving slightly.
We'll come in then, Sean. What's the line with the Irish team at the moment?
Yeah, well, I actually agree completely with that. I mean, we seem to play Georgia every single couple of years. I mean, there's more of a form line than a Premier League game at this stage. It's pretty incredible. And they always grind out a result, Ireland, and it's always by a goal. And then sometimes at home they've won by 2. I think we've actually seen loads of money on Ireland to win by 1 goal here. Loads and loads of smart money on it. And we're all the way.
Mark?
It's not my money, no. He said smart money. Definitely not mine.
It's 21-10 now. It's all the way in. I like the angle of possibly Dutching kind of that. Like, I mean, we could, if you Dutch to 1-0 or 2-0 result Ireland, you're getting around the 13-8, 7-4 mark. I mean, Ireland just don't blow teams away. They were pretty good against Oman, but that was just a Robbie Keane testimonial. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I think they'll probably just get over the line, and probably 1-2-0 is the most likely scoreline.
Okay, and also Wales in action away at Austria. Have you got a price there for us, Sean?
Yeah, so this game's pretty much been priced up along the lines that these two teams are rated, I mean, incredibly similarly at the moment, which is amazing. I think a couple of years ago, I think there was a similar fixture and Austria went off big favs. They're 5-4 odds against at home here, 21-10 the draw, and Wales are 12-5. Again, we're actually seeing money here for Wales, I guess, just following on from the Euros.
Dan, I don't think Austria are a bad side without Ramsey. Can they give the Welsh a game?
I think there's a danger of going too much on the Euros form here. I think Austria are odds against that. That would be where my bet would be. I just think to qualifying matches, they've won the last 10 games in qualifiers, and that was they were in a reasonably tough group last time with Russia and Sweden. So that's quite good form. Come from they beat Georgia 2-1 away in their first, in a tricky match as well in the first World Cup qualifier. Wales, I mean, we rely a lot on Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey. Aaron Ramsey's not available, so I think sometimes the link play between those two is important. Another reason with Ramsey suspended in that semi-final at the Euros, that they dipped on the performances they'd shown up to that point. So I'd be on Austria here, odds against.
A lot of energy in midfield from Ramsey, Mark. Big miss for them.
Yeah, of course. I mean, they've got a couple of standout players. He's one of them. I think that they'll probably be without him. I think they'll be even more defensive. Actually, I think Chris Coleman will think that a point's a good result away to Austria, given there's no Ramsey. And I think when Wales play like that, if you remember when they played Belgium, they were very defensive away from home and got the draw. I think the draw could be the one to go on, because I just think for Austria, Arnautovic can do some things, but he frustrates me. He frustrates me, and Alaba. A lot relies on Alaba, and if you can keep him quiet, I'm not sure where the inspiration comes from Austria. I think this will be a low-scoring game. Wouldn't be surprised if it finished in a draw.
Right, 5 o'clock Saturday. Gareth Southgate's England are hosting the mighty Malta. Sean, have you got some prices for Mr. Southgate's first game in charge?
Yeah, you couldn't ask for much of an easier match, really. I suppose it's not really much you can really get out of this, can you? I mean, he's expected to batter them here. I mean, they're 1-33 on to win the game. The draw is 25-1, and Malta are 100-1.
Sean, are there any sort of other markets there, handicap, or maybe some first goal scorer prices that we can go at rather than the 1-33? I know I was accused of being a short shot last week, but I mean, even I'm swerving. I'm swerving that.
2.5.
No, it's more than that.
Like what we're actually seeing at the moment is actually a lot of money in the goal score market. It's actually coming for Rashford now. I'd be surprised. I think. I mean, if Rashford. I mean, do you think he'll start the game, Mark? I mean,
I think there's. My initial thought was no, but I am coming round to the feeling that maybe Southgate sees it as a free hit for him, because if Rashford does well and he plays him, it would look like a really shrewd manager. And if it doesn't come off, he can just say, oh, well, I've given a youngster a chance. And that's what kind of people are asking for in the media. They want youngsters to be given their head. So maybe Will, because he can start him out wide as well.
I was going to say, if you do think he takes the plunge, does he play him sort of on the left like Mourinho's flirted with, or through the centre?
He's got plenty of options. It could be either, really. I mean, we're punting in the dark, aren't we, on Southgate's first team? We've got nothing to go at other than, he scored the hat-trick for the under-21s, and Lingard was another one that he really liked for the under-21. So maybe at least one of those will start.
And then Captain Rooney, starter for you?
Yeah, I'd start him. I mean, now you've got him in the squad. I mean, I think there's an issue with Adam Lallana being out, Wilshere not being picked at the moment, with a lack of creativity in midfield. I mean, you're playing Malta. Do you really need to go in with people like Eric Dyer, Jordan Henderson? I mean, in front of the back four, it just seems pointless to me. You might as well play Rooney in that midfield position and let him pick the passes for the array of forward players that I'm sure England are going to pick. So.
Sean, have you got any prices on sort of Rooney's performance or whether he starts or not, etc.?
Yeah, we haven't got Rooney to start the game now. I'd imagine he'd be close enough to, I don't know if I was pricing off the top of my head here, maybe like a 3's on shot, 4's on shot.
Shorter than that, I reckon. Yeah.
It's shorter again. So yeah, I mean, we can say it's pretty likely he's going to start. He's joint favourite for the first goal scorer market with Rashford, who all the money's come for. They're both 3-1. The handicap line is actually -4, and it's England at a shade of odd against. They're 11-10, -4 goals.
And what about yourself? Where do you see that one unfolding?
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, it's so hard to these kind of games kind of get an angle in. I generally, when there's these kind of massive favourites in these internationals, I like to back the kind of which half will have the most goals market, and I'm always siding on the second half. I just think these teams just run out of energy very easily in the second half, and you can imagine England pushing on. It's 5-6 that most goals are in the second half of the game. That's the angle I think I'd take in.
And what about the next permanent England manager? Have you got a quick show for us there?
Yeah, well, at the moment, so basically Gareth Southgate he's been pushed out to 2-1 here in this market. It's an interesting one. It's just basically, it's priced up so differently between different bookies based on different kind of criteria and what can get the job. I mean, if you're looking on the exchange at the moment, Southgate's really, really short, but he basically gets the job if he's there for 4 games, and I think he's basically a shoo-in to get those 4. But with us, he's got to have to be there at least 10 matches, so that's effectively where the difference is in our pricing. So we're out to 2-1 on that, although it was even money. Ralph Rangnick is 4-1. I mean, where this has come from, I mean, it's nuts really, isn't it? But I mean, he's been interviewed by the FA allegedly. He might have been the last time as well when Sam got the job, so he's second favourite. Wenger's very, very popular, 9-2. Again, it might suit Wenger to hop into that role, I guess, once Southgate vacates it in 4 games, if he does. Alan Pardew, 11-1. Eddie Howe 12-1, Steve Bruce 12-1. But money's kind of dried up in this market since Southgate's got his 4 games. I expect it to kind of gain interest again once he's getting to the end of that tenure.
That seems short, 9-2 thing. I mean, he's a runner for me, but that seems very short.
No, I think that's probably about right, Dave, really. I mean, what price would he be to leave Arsenal at the end of the season? I mean, that's basically, I think, what you're betting on here. And if Arsenal don't have a great season, that they're going well at the moment, but if I wouldn't be amazed if this was his last year at Arsenal, and then the England job just becomes perfect for him. It's semi-retirement. You haven't got to wait 2 years for a World Cup. You've only got to wait 1.
Nice pension as well.
It's the perfect job. I mean, the thing that frustrates club managers with taking international roles is, that you're only really getting involved every 2 years because it's the major tournaments that people get involved. If you've got only 1 year, that feels a lot shorter. And so I wouldn't be surprised if it was Arsene Wenger, I have to say. In terms of the game, I was looking at 4-0 as a correct score. That's where the Asian handicap line sits, and I tend, I think that's a good. If you're trying to work out the game, I think that's a good way to judge it. The handicap's at 4 goals, so maybe 4-0.
Dan, final line with you on the England game?
Yeah, I mean, I've gone a little bit less than that. 3-0, I thought 13-2 was maybe where to go. I just mentioned about Malta. I mean, and they lost 5-1 to Scotland in the first qualifier. They went down to 10 men while the game was at 2-1, so you maybe shouldn't read too much into that. Also, they only conceded 16 goals in 10 qualifiers in the last group, lost 1-0 in both their matches against Italy, lost 1-0 and 2-0 against Croatia. So maybe
I would just say there is a difference in qualifying criteria. In the World Cup, goal difference is used. In Euros, it's head-to-head, so it is more important for the big teams to give these smaller teams a hiding, Spain, a la Liechtenstein. So that's maybe where Sean's angle comes into it there, that they try to really hammer home the advantage in the second half, if they're good enough, of course.
Another side that might try to hammer home is the mighty Northern Ireland taking on Minnows, San Marino. Dan, how do we see that one going?
Yeah, I mean, they'll try to hammer them. I mean, you couldn't get weaker opposition in European football. San Marino, the weakest side, but Northern Ireland, they just don't score lots of goals, do they? I mean, I think it's gone 44 games now since they scored more than 3 goals in an international. Wow. In that time, I mean, if you're thinking about the poor quality of opposition, they have played Malta once, they played Luxembourg twice, they played the Faroe Islands twice. So, they don't necessarily score lots of goals against poor sides as well. And I mean, the side of it is that San Marino are the poorest side in Europe, and 9 defeats in a row. They've not got an away point since April 2001 when they drew away to Latvia. So you really are dealing with a poor side. But I would just err towards maybe Northern Ireland 2-0, Northern Ireland 3-0. They just haven't got the players to batter teams.
Sean, what monster price are Paddy Power going about a San Marino win here?
Yeah, they're 66-1, slightly shorter, but they're 20-1. The draw and Northern Ireland are actually the same price as England, 1-33. I think I'd rather be on the England 1-33 than the Northern Ireland one. There's more scope for a bit of a shock here, I'd say. Not much, but a little.
Where would your money be going in this game?
Yeah, we actually haven't even priced up the goal line here yet, purely because it's just a tough one to kind of gauge. I mean, we'll be going up with it now in the next couple of hours. It'll probably be sitting around the 4.5 favouring the underside, but maybe looking at the goal score angle again, we've Kyle Lafferty priced up there at Fav at 11-5, Conor Washington 3-1. It's very, very difficult. I think I'd adopt a similar kind of thing that I did in the England game and go second half again, maybe just double up those 2 matches. It's 11-10 here. Most goals are in the second half, so that double possibly would pay around 3-1 with the England one. I'd say if I was getting investing some money in it, would probably be on that.
Mark, for you?
I was looking at around 3-0, 4-0. That's where the handicap's set, around 3.5, and I mean, it sounds like a boring system, but I think it is the right way to go in these matches.
Coming up,
yeah, well, I mean, the handicap line is there for a reason. It's very rare that the handicap line is completely blown away either side. I think it always gives you a very good indication as to the level of ability of the two teams. So, I mean, I just think you're much wiser peppering the handicap rather than playing the handicap. Just sort of bet around it. I mean, San Marino, just don't score goals at all. So I think you can put them in for a 0. I mean, it takes something remarkable for them to score, and then it's just how many Northern Ireland get. I think 3 or 4 is the most likely.
Okay, Sean, also on Saturday night, Group F, in England's group, Scotland against Lithuania. How did Paddy Power price that one up?
Yeah, Scotland big favourites here, 4-9. The draw is 10-3, and Lithuania are 13-2 to win the game.
What about yourself?
Yeah, I'd be looking down the kind of under goals route here. I mean, Scotland just generally in these qualifiers, I mean, they're just not too attack prone, and I kind of see them. I mean, they'd happily accept a 1 or 2-0 win here. Like, the unders are priced kind of accordingly. I mean, they're 8-13 on, but to be honest, I really can't see there being 3 or more goals in the game. So Scotland would happily take a 1 or 2-0 here. So yeah, I'd possibly be playing the unders.
Down a bore fest for you, not many goals on offer?
Not necessarily, no. I think Scotland under Strachan actually play some, quite positive attacking football, and I mean they're lacking, in centre forward position. You got the likes of Chris Martin, Stephen Fletcher. But they have got some good wire players. You got Oliver Burke coming through. He's got signed for Leipzig from Nottingham Forest, for a lot of money. And
30 million, I think it was. He looks a great player.
Yeah, he does look a good player. He'll probably get a chance at some stage. You got Snodgrass in good form as well for Hull as well. Matt Ritchie. There's some good, some reasonable players that against a team like Lithuania could supply or score some goals. So Lithuania, looking at them going forward, Lucas Spalvis is by far their best striker. Scored a lot of goals in Danish football last season. Signed for Sporting Lisbon, but he's injured at the moment, so they're missing their main forward. So I think Scotland could be quite comfortable here. And I was looking at the Asian handicap line, minus a goal, which if they win by 1 goal, you get your money back. Anything more, you get your profit. And they're a shade of odds on in that market, but I'd be taking that.
Mark, for you?
Sure, yeah, I was just going to... The first goal scorer market, is that Snodgrass 8-1 and Ollie Burke 10-1 in that market?
It is, Mark, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Dutch in those two. I mean, Snodgrass got a hat-trick.
Is he on pens as well?
He's on pens, and he got a hat-trick against Malta in the last round of qualifiers. He scored 4 goals for Hull this season. And Burke, another one. I mean, Strachan, he tends to play with, like, Martin up front, and Burke, Ritchie and Snodgrass kind of buzzing around off of him, making runs from outside to in. But Burke does that all the time. So, I mean, he scored, I think it was 3 goals for Nottingham Forest, got the 1 already for Leipzig. Hasn't had that many minutes points in Germany. But I just thought those two may be your best way in, because in terms of Chris Martin, I think he's more of a hold, or Fletcher would be more of a hold-up forward and looking to get those very talented players in behind. And Snodgrass probably on all kinds of set pieces. You mentioned he got the pen as well in Malta. So yeah, particularly Snodgrass and a little saver maybe on Burke.
Just quickly, best Scottish side for a while?
I think on paper it's definitely got talent. There's question marks as to whether Strachan can get them into a team. Question marks over his ability as a manager. But yeah, you've got Burke, you've got Snodgrass, you've got Ritchie. There are players now playing at a higher level. He's not having to get loads of players from the Championship anymore and below. So maybe centre back's an issue for them. But certainly in the forward positions, I like them.
Dan, enough to cause England problems when they meet?
I think it's possible, yes. I don't think it's a complete gimme that England will win both of those games. I think Scotland are a team on the up. They were in a very tough group last time and didn't come through it, but they did take 4 points off of Ireland in those games. They come a cropper when they lost to Georgia. That was the big blow for them, the reason that they missed out on the top 3 spot. But they're going the right way and they shouldn't be totally written off.
OK, we'll go for a quick break and then tackle Sunday's games.
Check out Paddy Power's latest football offer. For Tuesday's match between England and Slovenia, back a team to win and get a free bet if they're losing at half-time. Max £25. T&Cs apply. 18 plus. Gambleaware.co.uk.
Welcome back to the Racing Post Football Postcast. Sunday's games. Sean O'Sullivan is on the line from Paddy Power. Give us some prices for Wales against Georgia.
Well, I'm happy now for these prices to be taken apart. No one's really up with these games. All other books seem to be waiting, but I fired them up about an hour ago for this game, so happy to for people to take these apart, no bother at all. Are we doing the Moldova game first, is it, or the Wales v Georgia match?
We'll go with Wales, Georgia.
Cool,
first.
we'll go with Wales. I went up 2-7 Wales here, 7-2 to draw, and Georgia is 10-1 outsiders. Straight away there, the direct comparison with the Ireland match shows that Wales are rated a good deal better than Ireland, which is a bit worrying for our own hopes of qualifying. Yeah, so 2-7. They're very strong favourites here. You'd expect Wales, I think, to beat Georgia.
It's early doors, Dan. We've touched on sort of both sides already, but even despite Ramsey again looking like he's going to be out, we should see Wales come through this.
What I would say, if you're a punter with deep pockets, I think I'd be very reluctant to go smashing in advance of the first qualifier. What if Gareth Bale was to pick up a knock or an injury? That 2-7 would look very, very short then, wouldn't it? You're talking about Wales and Ireland. I don't think without Bale, I'm not sure you would say Wales are a better side than Ireland. So,
Sean's not silly, is he? He's trying to reel in the punters early on.
No, it's just a dangerous thing to back them when you've got the game in between. You want to wait and see how the squad's looking.
Especially
afterwards.
Given their reliance on Bale, like you say.
Yeah, in advance, what I would say is that as I mentioned earlier, Georgia are an improving team. They've got to half-time 0-0 in their last 4 competitive away games. Now, those included matches away to Poland, away to Ireland, away to Germany. So they've got the 0-0 in all of those 3 away games. That's drawn me into the draw Wales half-time, full-time bet. It's 11-4, and I think it looks overpriced.
Interesting angle. Wales on their own patch. During the Euros, Mark, they were a side that almost welcomed pressure on them. Going forward and forcing the issue themselves, can we see them?
They're not suited to it. There's no doubt about that. I'm looking at similar lines as I think the draw Wales half-time, full-time would be the one to be on. I also think that if Gareth Bale does come through it unscathed, maybe the Bale 1-0 scorecast could be the way to go. That won't be priced up yet, but I know there were some punters out there back in the Bale 1-0, 2-0 Wales scorecast in the last qualifying campaign. It looks obvious, it sounds obvious, but I think international football and these qualifiers is becoming about looking at the obvious rather than ridiculously big prices, because I think it tends to be short for a reason.
OK, and we'll tackle Moldova Ireland also. Sean, have you got some prices for that game?
Yeah, we're 6-1 Moldova here, 11-4 to draw, and Ireland are 8-15. Again, Dan made a really good point there. The reason nobody goes up with these games is evidently so much can change from the first game. Ireland go away now and batter Georgia. They're going to shorten in here to probably around 3s on for this match. They go away and draw, lose a couple of players. They could drift all the way out to 4-6. This shows how huge kind of the initial game can be running onto this one when they're so close together. But for now, anyway, we're 8-15 Ireland.
What do we make of Moldova?
No, I think Ireland are going to roll over Moldova. I think this is in terms of away
that should
bankers.
Be the headline of the paper, that one.
I think we've probably been using it for about 8 years, that one. But I was just looking at Moldova. 1 win in their last 22 matches. That was 1-0 against Andorra. They lost 4-0 in Wales. The expected goals map for that game actually suggests they did okay. That 4-0 was, that they were unlucky to lose 4-0. It was just the fact that they ran into a Welsh team that took their chances on the day. But I mean, I think this is the type of game really where Moldova are being overrated. If anything, I mean, I think they really are slipping down the football pecking order. I mean, not often I would say that Ireland are a bet at sort of around about the 8 to 15 mark away from home, but I think it's fair enough on this occasion.
But Dan, an interesting one. You give Georgia a bit of a squeak against Ireland tonight. So perhaps keep the powder dry and hope Georgia nick a draw or whatever, we might see a drift on the Irish price.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I think Moldova are nowhere near as dangerous a side as Georgia, and I think Ireland could win this game quite comfortably. I looked at Moldova.
I can hear Sean changing the prices already.
I looked at Moldova. Moldova got 2 points in the last qualifying campaign. That was 3 points less than Liechtenstein got. So, I mean, that gives you an idea of the kind of level that they're dropping down to now. And I just think Ireland will be.
I don't think Sean's miles out of his price there. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you maybe even. I don't think you're gonna. I certainly don't think it's gonna go off 2 to 5 or anything like that. So I mean, I think it's just a case of Ireland maybe being underrated and Moldova overrated.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting run. Right, we're going to hear from colleague Mr. Steve Palmer and get the guys' best bets of the weekend.
This will not be beaten.
Right, lads, after a solid treble this weekend, we'll kick off with you, Mark.
I'm going to stick to the English club football, really. I'm swerving the internationals. I thought MK Dons were a very fair price at home to Port Vale on Sunday. MK Dons have won 3 of their last 4. The game they didn't, they absolutely outplayed a Bury team that's flying high at the moment. So they were unlucky there. Port Vale have made a very surprising start to the season. They were among the relegation favourites in League One. They have lost 3 of their last 4 games, though. The one they did win was against a woefully out-of-form Millwall. I think MK Dons have got a lot of quality going forward. I think they'll win the game.
Dan, for you?
Yeah, I'm dropping down to League Two. Grimsby away to Exeter. Grimsby 9th in League Two, which is a good start for them after coming up from the National League. Won their last 2 away games. Exeter just can't win a point at home. Lost all 5 home games. Paul Tisdale under pressure. They've got injuries, including a couple of their experienced centre backs still out at the moment. So Grimsby to win that away to Exeter.
Okay, so MK Dons and Grimsby. Sean, yourself and a couple of prices there for us.
Yeah, that actually hasn't happened in a while now, but I'm on MK Dons here as well. I think 4 to 5 is a huge price. That's what we are, and we're 7 to 5 in Grimsby. Just as an NB to throw out there for tonight's games. I actually think Perisic tonight for Croatia. It's completely left field here now, but first goal, he's chalked up at a general 13 to 2. Modric and Rakitic are both out tonight, and he's got a phenomenal record for Croatia. I think he's a goal every 3 matches. So people are looking to get stuck into maybe a slightly bigger NB kind of price. Perisic first goal tonight would be a good option.
Okay, it's a solid enough double and possibly a little treble there. Right, we'll go for another break and tackle the games on Monday and Tuesday.
Paddy Power, the home of one-touch betting. You can now place a bet with a single tap of the button. With One Touch, it's the fastest way to bet in play. 18 plus, gambleaware.co.uk.
Welcome back to the Racing Post Football Postcast. I'm Dave Clark, joined by colleagues Mark Langdon, Dan Charles. Also got Sean O'Sullivan on the line from our friends at Paddy Power. Sean, have you got prices up for the games on Monday and Tuesday? I mean, there's a real belter, Netherlands hosting France.
Yeah, that's actually one of the ones we went up with there. So Holland are outsiders here at home. They're 2 to 1. I think they've lost their last 5 matches at home, which is just incredible.
Wow.
Greece, France is one of the games in a friendly. Czech Republic, Iceland, United States. I mean, there's a big collection of different varying teams there, and they're losing all of them. They're 2 to 1. The draw is 21 to 10, and France are 7 to 5 to win in Holland.
And how do you see that one going, Sean?
Yeah, I'm all in here on France to win the group since the start.
Yeah.
I hope to God they win the match now. But I backed them at 10 to 11 to win the group. I thought it should have been closer to 2s on. I'm sweating a little bit now after the initial game, but so I'm happy to see them chalked up as favourites here. But yeah, just going off the Dutch record there, I think 7 to 5 is probably fair. I think if I was siding with a side here, I'd probably back France at 7 to 5.
Mark, where would you put these two sides in the sort of international pecking order at the moment?
Oh, well, I mean, I think France are right up there in terms of European nations. I mean, they reached the final on home, so I've got question marks over the manager. I think with a better manager than Deschamps, they probably would have won the Euros. Some of his squad selections.
Do you think the
still
heart can rule the head a little bit with him?
Well,
he's got his favourites,
he's definitely got his favourites, and I mean, but finally he's got Gamero in there. I mean, he's good enough to play for Atletico Madrid now. Was banging him in for Sevilla, and he had the big lump Gignac coming off the bench. Imagine, in that final, Portuguese tired legs, Gamero running at them, or Lacazette. I think it would have been, such. I mean, he handicapped himself basically by taking his favourites. That said, I think France draw no bet in this game. I mean, I don't think they'll be going all out to win it because a draw puts them in a really nice position for the group. I think Holland are finding their way back towards not the best, but I mean, to at least being respectable.
They've
and
still got
fighting
some
for
class in their squad, haven't
they have, but I think some of their class is mixed in with some average players, and that's a problem. Jansen's their main goal threat, obviously struggling at the moment with Tottenham. I think France can at least avoid defeat and look the more likely winners, as the prices suggest.
Same for you, Dan?
I fancy France. Yeah, I think there's been maybe a little bit of a reaction to the disappointment at the Euros. Might have been one of the reasons that the 0-0 in Belarus in the first match. You got Payet fully fit now. Got his wonder goal for West Ham in the last game. Pogba's getting into not into his stride for Man United, but at least he's got some games under his belts. Koscielny and Varane, they've got the first choice centre back partnership now. Varane, I think, was a big miss at the Euros as well. So, and Holland have got no Arjen Robben, who's missing from the squad. So they got a 1-1 away to Sweden. Holland the first game, but Sweden are an ordinary side. No Ibrahimovic anymore, so I wouldn't go overboard on that. I think they're improving slightly, but that's from such a low base where they were in the last qualifiers. So France for me, definitely.
I'm Robin. He sort of made his comeback, didn't he? And
he
must look about 90 now.
He gets injured every time he makes a comeback for Bayern Munich. It's a difficult one for him. I mean, Guardiola managed him brilliantly because he got a lot of games out of him, and I think virtually every other manager has struggled.
Right, okay, we've got a couple of games on Tuesday as well, Sean. Have you got prices for them as well? We've got Slovenia versus England.
Yeah, we're 4-1 Slovenia here, 11-4 to draw, and Southgate, you presume to make a 2 out of 2. They're 8-13 to win that match.
Very interesting. Don't concede many, Dan, Slovenia.
They don't concede many, I suppose, against poor teams. I mean, they did draw 2-2 with Lithuania last time.
There's an argument they're playing another poor team on Tuesday.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, what they do at home as well is they score goals as well. They've scored in all of their 6 qualifiers in the last qualifying campaign, including obviously the 3-2 against England. They scored at Wembley as well in the 3-1 defeat. So I'll try to get another angle here and get a bit of value and I think England will win the game, but I think they might. England's defence isn't, the most convincing, and against a team that can score goals, I think there's a chance England might concede. So England to win and both teams to score. I know it was 7-2. I thought that was a bit overpriced.
Mark, for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as convinced it's going to be a great game. I mean, they've got some decent players. Ilicic plays for Fiorentina. The goalkeeper's outstanding. Slovenia or Black in goal for Atletico Madrid. He doesn't get the same sort of protection, of course, that he'll get international level. I was just looking. Their last 2 defeats, Slovenia, have been 1-0. So I'm going to just go slightly against. I'm going to go 1-0 England. I'm not sure that Slovenia will take the game to England. I think teams are very respectful of England. It's quite strange, probably because they watch the Premier League so much.
Right.
I think that sort of foreign teams probably overrate England more than sort of.
I was going to say, do you think that's why we struggle a little bit to break teams down because they show us too much respect and we're probably not good enough to pile on the pressure?
There's very few teams that come at England. It can be a problem. I mean, it doesn't explain some of the performances against the likes of Iceland, but I do think that that they struggle to break down these well-organised teams. And what England have got up front is a lot of pace. And if teams drop off and don't allow you that opportunity to hit on the break, then it becomes quite difficult. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a slog similar to Slovakia and 1-0.
Sean, what price is the 1-0 or 0-1, as it were, in that game?
Yeah, the 1-0 to England is 4-1. I mean, I like that angle. I think England will get over the line. I think they could be slightly slow to start with. I mean, something maybe even like the half-time, full-time draw, half-time, kind of England full-time at 10-3 kind of catches my eye.
Okay, and what do we make of Northern Ireland's chances away at Germany? You got some prices for that one?
Yeah, slim to say the least. I mean, they're 16-1 outsiders. Germany 1-7, and the draw. I mean, there might be a few takers of that. I mean, even the most optimistic of Northern Ireland fans, I think, would struggle to see them winning in Germany. Is 6-1.
What do you make of the Germans, Mark?
Yeah, I think they're the best team in the world. I think they're the only team, certainly in Europe, that plays like a club team in terms of the passing and movement. I mean, we saw Portugal win the Euros by being very defensive, and that was how they managed to sort of get it done. Wales, pretty similar, I think, in terms of reaching the semi-finals. Germany tried to play football. I mean, they only beat Northern Ireland 1-0 in the Euros, and it was just an amazing goalkeeping performance. It could have been absolutely anything. I remember back in Germany, I think it was maybe sort of -1 in play or something when it was 0-0. And I just can't believe I failed to collect. I couldn't believe I lost money. I think Germany will win this game. I think they'll cover I'm expecting the handicap to be around sort of 2.5. So I think Germany can cover that. There's no Mario Gomez, but I don't think that's an issue at the moment. He hasn't even scored for Wolfsburg this season. I think Muller caused Northern Ireland a lot of problems in the Euros. There's quality throughout their team. I think this could be a very difficult game for Northern Ireland. They've got some injuries as well. They don't bat very deep from a squad point of view. So Michael O'Neill's a very good manager. He's going to need to be.
Dan, same for you.
I pretty much agree with all of that. I mean, Germany in the first game. I know Norway weren't at the Euros, but I actually think they're a slightly stronger team than Northern Ireland. Germany won 3-0 away to Norway in the first match. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they better that score against Northern Ireland. And Northern Ireland, I mean, Mark mentioned the injuries there. I mean, Will Grigg, I think, is not available. Craig Cathcart is a major doubt. Missed Watford's last game. And like Mark says, once you get beyond that first 11, the players coming in are often from the Championship or League One side. So there isn't the depth there. I think there's scope on the correct scores here. I don't look. Germany 4-0, 9-1. Germany 5-0, 18-1. Germany 6-0. Germany 6.
I hope he's not going to Belfast on holiday anytime soon.
Germany 6-0. I'm going further. 40-1. Now, I don't think these scores are. It would be a great surprise if there was a heavy defeat. So I think there's a little bit of value there.
Sort of, as Mark suggested earlier, maybe sort of
have your main bet on 4 and then just the smaller ones on 5.
Yeah, exactly. And those prices are big enough to have 2 or 3 pots at it.
Okay, excellent. Right. Well, the Premier League is back next week. Saturday the
counting down
15th of October. But there's plenty of bets to be had, as the guys have highlighted there. Keep a lookout for the racing postcast over the weekend. I'd like to thank Sean O'Sullivan on the line from Paddy Power, the 2 guys in the studio as well, and catch up with you next week.
Check out Paddy Power's latest football offer. For Tuesday's match between England and Slovenia, back a team to win and get a free bet if they're losing at half-time. Max £25, T&Cs apply, 18+, gambleaware.co.uk.